It's gearing time. Even if you're not interested in big sweaty gameplay, you may have noticed you just feel a little bit weak as a freshly dinged level 80. That won't do, so today I'm gonna get you sorted. This video is a step-by-step guide to getting eye level 580 in every slot and maybe even a few 590s, and you're gonna leave this with everything you need for the next 2 weeks. Where to get gear, how to get it efficiently, and even how to make somebody, or get somebody to make you, the best bit of gear of your choice, of course, if you can afford it, that is. Now, I know this can be daunting for returning players, especially if you didn't play Dragonflight, so I've got all the graphs, the tables, and the explainers that you could need to explain the gear sources, upgrades, and crafting, all made possible by today's sponsor, boot.dev/Bellular. So, Boot exists to teach you backend development using Python and Go, and their big thing is to kill tutorial hell, meaning you're not wandering around scattered tutorials on YouTube. No, you actually have a structured learning path that has been made by professionals in the field, and you get 25% off your first purchase at boot.dev/Bellular. They've got a wealth of content, but what I love is they're always growing. They've actually just launched Learn Git Part 2, and well, being good at Git will save you so many headaches going down the developer pathway, so highly recommended. I mean, hell, you get monthly patch notes. As an example, you can now restart your course progress if you want a fresh start. They've overhauled their Golang course, and they're working currently on memory management in C, which certainly brings me back, and I guess for the bands also, making asteroids. What they do, though, is they take you from the fundamentals right through to the advanced topics, and all done by people with real experience in the field who know what the actual job is. And that means that beyond just writing code, you'll end up with better abstract thinking skills and you'll be more confident. They're the real deal, and you can check them out at boot.dev/Bellular, where code Bellular gets you 25% off your first purchase. Of course, no questions asked, 30-day money-back guarantee, and they have got free demos of all of their courses for you to check out first. The first thing to do at level 80 is actually two things at the same time. Your major goal is going to be to earn 3 big epics. Now, these are eye level 584 renown pieces. They're available from the Assembly, Council, and Arathi renown quartermasters at renown levels 8, 7, and 7 respectively. That's the good news. The bad news is these will also cost you 2,600 resonance crystals each. So there's that. Then your secondary goal is to hit item level 551 so that you can queue for heroic dungeons, and thankfully you can get all of this stuff knocked out fairly easily. So, gear, renown, and crystals all come from the same sources, which are just doing content. And the best way to go about this is just doing a big side quest adventure. Just work your way through the side quests of the Isle, in the Deeps, and in Hallowfall, and while you're there, pick up every treasure you see and kill every rare that spawns. And if you want to be as efficient as you can, grabbing handy notes and rare scanner is pretty good for making sure you don't miss anything. And the good news is that while you're doing all of this to get your 584 gear, you'll also just get loads of 550 plus drops. Then as an extra reward, you're also able to pick up 2 other bits of 571 gear real easy. The first one is a neck from Hallowfall, and it's earned at the end of a side quest that you can start once you hit renown level 5. Then the other one is a trinket from Azj-Kahet. It's called the Nerubian Pheromone Secretor, lovely, and that'll set you back 450 Kedge, which is the currency that you earn when you're doing things in Azj-Kahet. It's actually kind of fun. What you do is you buy fragrances from around the zone to customize the secondary stats of that bit of gear. So, if you clear both Azj-Kahet and Hallowfall entirely of rares, treasures, and quests, you may be close to getting renown level 11 with each, and if you can reach that, you can then go back and pick up the item level 584 versions of those 2 bits of gear that I mentioned. Now, if you find yourself doing all of that and still not being eye level 551, don't worry, there is another really quick source of gear. So if you want an epic to fill out your second trinket slot, a quick trip to the auction house will really help you. There's these Dark Moon decks, they're already flooding the market, and they're really cheap. Like on our server, you can get them between 800 and 4,000 gold. They're item level 577, which isn't that high, they can't be upgraded, but for a fresh 80, it's a really huge pickup. I should also say that there are other BOEs that cap out at item level 564, so they're another option for quick gearing, but of course only if you've got a few tens of thousands of gold to spare, because prices right now are a little bit higher. Now that you've knocked out all those objectives, your next goal is to get item level 571 in every slot. And the most important things to do for these next 2 weeks are your weeklies. Now, you'll get gear from the Theater Troupe, from Awakening the Machine, and Spreading the Light, which are events that are marked on your world map. They drop item level 571 gear that's on the Adventurer track, and the same actually goes for the 2 special assignment world quests that are up every week. Then, the Severed Pact is another weekly in the zone of Azj-Kahet. It doesn't actually give gear by itself, but completing it gives you access to a special special assignment world quest that does get you gear. I'm going to mention this next thing for the sake of completeness, because if you've somehow done everything in this video and you're still not item level 551, then yeah, luck has not been kind to you. Of course, what you can do is buy the 564 BOEs from the auction house for the sake of speed, or you can go and chain clear normal dungeons or tier 3 delves for eye level 554 gear. And also, a little bit of curse knowledge. If you level sync to a lower level player in your party and then help them with their quests, the item boxes that you get from doing that actually can give you eye level 558 gear. Even if you're not big into dungeons, heroics are laughably easy in the preseason. They're barely any harder than a normal, and they're ridiculously fast, like maybe 8, 10, 12 minutes a dungeon. So spamming these is a very effective way to get lots of gear right now after you've picked up the high value things that I've already mentioned. This will also give you plenty of Valor Stones and Weathered Crests. With those, you can upgrade your gear, and I'll explain how that works in a little bit. But first, what if you don't like dungeons or you need some help getting eye level 551 to get into dungeons? There are a few other ways to earn adventurer gear. So daily rares and unique treasures can drop adventurer pieces as well, and world quests can also have gear on them. So without dungeons, that world content will be your main source of gear going forward, even when the season starts again, if you're not really a dungeoning or raiding sort of player. Now, delves will be an amazing place to get strong gear, but not right now. Tier 3 delves can only drop eye level 554 gear that cannot be upgraded. Bountiful delves do actually drop upgradable adventurer gear, but you need keys to open the boxes from those bountiful delves, and those keys are a limited resource, one that I highly suggest you keep and you do not use right now, and save them up for the season, because you'll be able to get way better gear once the season starts and you can access delves that are above tier 3. So by now you're probably around item level 571 in every slot, and that means it's time to explain the upgrade system. Now, if you have not played the game in Dragonflight, you may be a bit confused about this, wondering what the hell upgrading is or any of the currencies. So here's the deal. Blizzard added an excellent gear upgrade system. It's just a little bit confusing initially, but once you understand it, you understand it, and it should work the same for every season going forward. Basically, instead of having to refarm gear at higher levels, every bit of gear has got an upgrade track. And you can upgrade gear with a combination of different tiered crests, which basically have got a cap that grows every week, and then Valor Stones, which are farmable but have a maximum amount that you can hold at once. Just think of the crests as the things that do the upgrades, and the Valor Stones as like the fuel to do the upgrade. As an example, that 571 necklace from Hallowfall is labeled Adventurer gear, and that means you can upgrade it to item level 580 using Valor Stones, or up to 593 by using a lot more Valor Stones and also some of your limited Weathered Crests. And as a piece of adventurer gear, 593 is the highest it can possibly go. But as an example, your epic items, well, those are veteran gear. Those can be upgraded even further for more resources, and to explain how that works, here's a table. Just look at the table, it's easier than words. Now, my recommendation here is to upgrade things as far as you feel comfortable. Right up to 580 definitely hits a sweet spot in terms of cost and power. That's basically all that you'll need to start doing Mythic Zeros and Raid whenever the season launches, so I'd say that using too many Valor Stones beyond that point is a little bit wasteful. Now, those crests and Valor Stones come from basically anything in Khazalgar, and the higher tiered crests comes from harder difficulty dungeons, raids, and delves. But in the preseason, you can basically get Weathered Crests from outdoor activities. That's things like, world quests, and even these floating orbs that you can fly through, but, not that likely. And then, of course, you can do instances like delves and heroic dungeons. Then there's carved crests. Those are a bit more rare, and they're used to upgrade higher tier gear, but right now you can only get a small amount from weekly sources. As an example, those renown epics that I mentioned earlier, those can be upgraded all the way to item level 606 using carved crests, so you can do that if you really want big gear. Now, one thing that I do want to drill into you, though, is that Valor Stones are a little bit scarce right now. Once the season starts, farming them could be a little bit of a pain, so I would recommend just farming yourself up to the cap and being a bit judicious in how you use them. Now, as for acquiring these, heroics are probably the easiest way, and for a bit of context here, Matt had about 1,800 Valor Stones from doing all the side quests in his testing, doing most of the world quests available so far, and just one heroic dungeon. And that was enough to upgrade a full set of item level 571 gear all the way up to 580. He also got 210 Weathered Crests, and that's enough to upgrade 5 of those items to 593, but he ended up running out of Valor Stones, despite us doing hours of heroic farming. So often Valor Stones will be the thing you're short on. With that explained, though, you can upgrade everything to 580 now, and that's basically you ready for the seasonal launch. unless you want to go one step beyond. Some of the strongest gear that you can earn right now is actually from crafters if you've got the coin and some crests. Now, this is a little bit complicated, but bear with me, I'll explain it. You'll need to use the crafting order system. So instead of upgrading to 593 for a whole bunch of Valor Stones and 45 crests, what you can do is have somebody craft you an item level 590 piece using just 30 crests and a bunch of gold. Now, for a quick disclaimer, this is a little bit impractical. Right now, crafting will result in a minor upgrade that you'll replace in 2 weeks, and it could cost you tens of thousands of gold. But if that gold doesn't really mean much to you, it's kind of fine. And I'll also say that once the season starts, crafting will be a good bit more important, people will be more leveled up, and it should be a fair bit cheaper. The first thing we'll need is a nascent crest, so you can get those by going to the enchanting supplies vendor and spending 30 crests, right? Once you've got that item, then your next step is to get an enchanter to turn that into an enchanted crest for you. To do this, you'll also need some reagents, which are 30 storm dust and 5 gleaming shards. So get those, then ask in trade chat for an enchanter, agree on a price, and get the item made. But you will find that loads of enchanters are actually doing this for free right now because they just want the skill ups. Anyway, with that, you will have your enchanted crest. And now that you've got that, it's time to craft your actual item. First, you want to know which item to craft. Most class discords and guides have already got advice on that, but generally speaking, if you're a melee, go for a weapon. That being said, the correct thing to do technically would be to complete all of your weeklies and as many dungeons as you've got the heart for, and then to craft items to fill in those pesky slots that are left over where you haven't got drops. Now, right now, you can only craft blue items like this Ironclaw Great Axe, and those can go up to item level 590. The stronger items will require sparks, and those are a random drop chance from any content. You'll get 1 fractured spark per week from dungeons or world content, even things like flying through orbs. Now, once you've got 2 of those, you can combine them to make a full spark, and you can then use that in a crafting order to make an epic, though to do a weapon, you'll need 2. But really, don't worry about that. We'll deal with it in our Season 1 gearing guide. Anyway, once you know what you want, you need to find a crafter to make it for you, and the easiest thing to do is just to type into trade chat saying that you need a blacksmith or whatever and linking the item that you want. Say what item level you want, in this case 590. And usually somebody who'll be able to make that will whisper you pretty quickly. Of course, don't be afraid to haggle on price because on their end, it's almost pure profit, and then just ask them what things they need. They may, as an example, need some higher or lower quality materials, depending on how skilled they are as a crafter. And this can also include embellishments for some extra effects, but I would hold off on those right now. And of course, then missives, which let you pick the stats that you actually get on your item. So go to the auction house, pick up those things that you need, then create the crafting order like you did before, and within a few minutes, they should complete the order, and you'll have the item in your mail. To be honest, that sounds all quite daunting and confusing, but really it's not so bad once you get used to it, and it can be super quick. And that's basically that for gearing right now. Come back in 2 weeks and we will have the full gearing guide. If you want to watch something in the meantime though, click whatever appears in the box. A big thanks to today's sponsor for supporting the channel, and of course to all of our members who do the same as well. That's it from me, and I'll see you next time.